Howdy, my friends. Welcome into this week's episode of Forte Catholic. I'm so glad that you are here, that you've chose to make us part of your week this week. We always appreciate it. We've got a great show for you here today. Allison Sullivan is our co-host today from right here in the studio. We also have a very rare guest appearance today from our friends over at the Cordial Catholic. So Allison and I talk about a midlife crisis. I sound like I'm in a really good mood, but we talked about, I asked essentially the question, am I too young to have a midlife crisis? Because that's where my head has been these days. We talk about what's been going on. And then we also play an oldie but a goodie game called Life Verse, where we choose life verses for each other and other people completely randomly from the scriptures and try to make it make sense. Our guest this week is from Keith from the Cordial Catholic. And he's great. His entire ministry is like, he's a convert, and his whole thing is he wants to make Catholicism a little bit more accessible and frankly, just a little bit more kind to those who aren't Catholic as they consider or are in the process of joining the church. So we have a great conversation about that today. We hope that you enjoy it. If you do, please hit subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. Enjoy. Hello there, and welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Allison Sullivan. What do you think about that one?
You know what, Taylor? You're going to do what you're going to do. Julissa. It's nice. We could shorten it to Jewel, which I've always admired.
What's funny is I think there's a lot that goes on in my subconscious. I don't think out of my subconscious all that often.
Are you trying to say you have a filter because you don't?
No, I think I did this completely by accident because I think you said either the last time you were on or the previous one that you wanted to be called Jewel, and then I called you Julissa.
No way.
And I did not plan that at all.
Okay, receipts. We need receipts. But I do, if karaoke's happening, and because my first choice is Alanis, my second is Cher, but Jewel is on up there. I mean, if it's a good night, I will incorporate Jewel into the mix. And that's the first like poetry I ever resonated with. So Jewel it is. Julissa. I like it.
Well, remind me to ask you about poetry, but I have one question before the poetry.
Okay.
I don't know how to ask this nicely. Aren't you a terrible singer?
Yeah.
But I feel like karaoke with you would still be incredibly entertaining.
It's a blast. I am annoyed by, and I think most of us are, by karaokeers who get up there and hit notes. Boring.
No one cares
Move
when
along.
I do an incredible rendition of something.
Move along.
People are like, boo!
This is for the amateurs, okay? And I lived in Japan, okay, karaokeing in Japanese dive bars, thank you very much, and was friends with like classically trained, beautiful singer. And she would get up and like, you know, like sing one of our songs. And we're like, honey, you can do anything you want. Why do you insist on You Ought to Know by Alanis? So yeah, no, it is a good time. It's a rippering good time. I do accidentally hit a few notes.
The mental image of you being a tall white woman in a Japanese karaoke bar is one of those things I'm going to sit with for a while. Like genuinely funny.
We were a delight.
I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were.
We delighted ourselves. Yeah, it was a good time.
So I have a poetry. I've only read poetry. I believe one time, read as in like I did a reading of poetry.
Okay.
You know who 50 Cent is?
I do.
There's a song called 21 Questions.
Okay.
And we had to recite poetry. This would have been in 7th or 8th grade. And there was a girl in the class who was my first crush. First crush of like people I knew, like not Britney Spears. You know, like
sure.
That was like within
real
proximity
person.
of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
attainable.
Like, I know how I'm going to impress this girl. I'm going to do a dramatic poetry. So I read it like you would read Shakespeare or Beowulf.
Oh.
But it was 50 Cent lyrics.
Hold on, is there an accent involved?
No. But it was
dramatic.
Like dramatic, like the slam poetry
kind
of style.
Of course.
That I was doing. And never went on a date with her.
She wasn't impressed?
She was not.
Wow.
But
Hold on. Did you do this ironically?
No. I was very serious.
Serious.
Oh, yeah. I thought I was a rapper. I was real cool. doing my teacher had a lot of questions. She was an old white lady, and she was like, "What is this from? What's a hoopty?" She had lots of questions.
You're gonna find him in the club.
Yeah.
Bottlefuls of bub.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you should tell the story way more often. So this is a little bit funny. When I was a senior in high school, Hootie and the Blowfish had not blown up yet, I don't think. But Scotty Harmatuck had an English language arts assignment, and he wrote out the lyrics to what's Hootie's biggest hit? I only want to be with you. Okay. So he wrote that out. And maybe this was our junior year, sophomore year. I don't know the timing. I can't remember. I can't be bothered. But the next that he turns this in, gets an A. And the next thing he knows, the next month, this song is everywhere. It's like, I didn't know they were going to make it big.
Yeah.
This was my one secret find.
See, I did the opposite. The song was number one on the charts. My old white English lit teacher just had no idea. But, I think she was about to figure it out, but she just let it go.
Can we know your crush's name or some initials, maybe?
SH.
SH. Did SH know that it was a number one hit?
Yeah. I think I looked at her like during she could not be
Scotty
bothered.
Harmatuck and SH. Interesting.
Wow. Incredible. It was the only thing that gave me hope. We're starting the show off very differently than we thought, which is funny. We'll get to why that's funny here in a second. But the only reason I had hope with this girl, which like I if I had a 1% of 1% chance with this girl, like I thought I had like a 50-50 chance. Like I had a 1% of 1%.
Okay.
Like,
I don't think she was an artist.
I was going to say I'm not the person that I was back then, but people don't like me now. So that could be a misgiving. But I was a very different person then. Like, I didn't have many friends, and I don't blame people back then. Like, now if you don't like me, I'm like, you either love or hate me. Like, not many people feel
a little polarizing.
Yeah. But
okay.
Back then it was like nobody could be.
There were no mixed messages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I did. The only reason I thought I had hope is that I learned a trick that I'm interested to see if you had this trick when you were growing up and in your dating days. Did you ever do the fake yawn to see if somebody was looking at you?
No.
So
brilliant.
You know how if I yawn,
of course it's contagious.
Everybody else is going to yawn too. Like 50% of our audience just yawned. They couldn't even see me.
You didn't even finish it. You just hinted at a yawn.
So I was in class. I tried it a couple times. So I'd like fake yawn, and then I'd like see if she yawned, and it never worked. But there was a couple. We went to the same church, same youth group. And there's a couple of times where this was later. So this was after we got out. So
you thought you had a chance because she was a yawner.
She looked at me. She was looking at me.
Yeah. I mean,
I think
someone can catch your attention with a yawn because it's a kind of a bigger gesture and it not necessarily mean anything. But yeah, interesting tactic.
That's the only reason I thought I had a chance, but ultimately it did not work.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't meant to be.
SH.
Surely.
I'll give you one guess as her hair color.
Oh, I already know.
I know you do.
I already know.
Okay, you want to start the show how we were going to start the show?
Sure.
The irony of
I'm up for anything, Taylor.
The irony of how we're going to start the show today is we're going to talk about how stressful and frustrating both of our lives are.
Yeah.
And how that whenever things are stressful and frustrating, you have two options.
Yeah.
You can attack the problem.
Yeah.
Or you can avoid it.
Yeah.
And we chose before the show that we were going to attack it.
We're just going to attack it. And we're just going to get in there.
Now we have spent the last 7.5 minutes completely avoiding it. So let's get depressing, shall we?
Fine.
We've both been in a weird place here, both separately and some. We've had some crossovers, like a Venn diagram, right? Yeah. Where it's like 90% of my stuff is over here, 90% of yours, but there's been a 10% where we've crossed over.
Some overlap,
some stress and some frustration. And my question for you is, because I've been thinking about it a lot over the last week or two, how old does a person have to be? What's the youngest a person can be to have a midlife crisis? Because I think I'm close.
You can definitely have a quarter life crisis. Don't you? Did you have a quarter life crisis?
No, I was happy then.
I had a quarter life crisis. It's why I moved to Japan. I'm like, peace out.
So how old were you when you moved to Japan?
I was 22. I was 23.
20, okay, so you're suggesting that you're going to live until your mid to late 80s?
Yeah. At least.
I think I'm having my midlife crisis because I think I'm halfway there.
70's all you got?
34.
Yeah.
Double that with how big I am. Sure.
Yeah.
68. That sounds good.
That's not good enough, Taylor. We need to listen. We have some more work to do. I thought we were just talking about procrastination.
How much longer do I have to wait for this midlife crisis? Because I've been pushing it off because I feel like it's too early.
You're not
the only
due.
reason I've been pushing it off.
Yeah, I think you can have more than one. They can be in varying degrees. You can have miniature midlife crises. And then you can have, this is the big one. This is the mama. This is the mama midlife crisis.
There's two reasons that I've tried to push this off. Mm-hmm. One, I don't think I'm old enough.
Okay.
Because most of my friends are your age.
Yeah.
Because I had this strange realization on Saturday. We were at our kids play football together.
Yes.
And I was incredibly left out of the conversation with all the other parents because all the other parents are 47 years old.
I don't think that's why, but go on.
Ouch. Thanks for your help. But it's just different. And what was I saying?
Well, let me tell you. So you're sitting next to my 14-year-old son, who, by the way, is mature. So there's that. But he came home and he
14?
goes, he's 14. I know, he seems
older.
way older. I know. And he looks older. And so he comes home and he says, Mom, I am better friends with Taylor than you are. I think he probably would like me more than he would like you. And I was like, I do not argue that at all.
It's not true, but it does make me feel good because
you can see how he would think that though.
But also with how close you are to my baby.
Yes. We have some reciprocity there. And I was thinking that when I walked, I wanted to text you very intentionally and be like, my son really enjoys you. And I thank you for that. I need help. I need what you do with him. So anyways, but what are we talking about? With your friends are older, midlife crisis. You feel like you need to be older. I don't know. I feel like that avoidance of, one thing that I feel like I say to you all the time is there's no way through but through. And so if you're just pretending not to feel a certain way because you think you only get so many of these, you've met your quota, then I feel like you're just, elongating it,
but
instead of not having it, you're just making it longer.
I think you're right for most things. The second thing I was going to say about the other reason, because all these other dads are older than me, and I was wondering, it's I don't think I'm allowed to go through my midlife crisis if they haven't done it yet. It's just a matter of being kind. They have to do it. So I have questions if they've done it yet. But then the second thing is I don't have enough money to go through midlife crisis. You ever go through midlife crisis? They buy a Corvette. I don't have that kind of money. So yeah. I'm at this point where it's I want to have it, but I'm not allowed to. But there are some problems in my life where time or time plus new information solves the problem. We're I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to fix the situation. So it's like this week, we had a stressful situation where today, I got more information where I feel better about the situation that really stressed me out and frustrated me all week.
Right.
And literally just, I spent a lot of time and energy and focus and emotional time and
labor
time.
Yeah.
Thinking about this and focusing on it. And literally just with a conversation with you before we hit break, it's I feel better about it.
Yeah.
Not that it's resolved or solved, but I feel better about it. And literally time and new information because of that time.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Help solve that problem. So there are a lot of problems in my life. So there are always problems in my life that I think, one, can't get fixed unless I do something about them, require my direct input. And there are others where they just kind of solve themselves while where I could ignore them. And the problem is I never know which is which. So I always feel like I always feel like I should be tackling a problem, but I don't have the like emotional capacity or energy to tackle it.
Yeah.
And then, so I decide to avoid it. And then as I'm avoiding it, I can't even enjoy my life because I'm focusing on, I should be fixing this problem.
And that's the tension. That's the tension that we are all, because it's always about balance. I understand what you're saying, because in so many instances, for me to get better or heal, there requires some degree of separation. But when separation becomes isolation, or even like a mourning that's required, but when mourning turns to moping, you've kind of moved into this other territory that becomes something else. But you're right. And that pain doesn't last forever. Either something changes or we get stronger. Mm-hmm. Like things are going to change. I had this thought while you were talking, and I was thinking about, I don't know, like think about the biblical greats. I'm like building this plane while I'm flying it. So hold on a second. But I
can name a few if you'd like me to help.
Some biblical, but think about what if it is requiring a pivot? Okay, so yes, there's time. Yes, there's new information. Yes, there's a leaning in. But what if there's also like a pivot from what you thought to now what is? Okay. So you pretending that I kind of feel a hissy fit coming, or I kind of feel a meltdown coming, and then pretending that's not true because it's not your time. I think that when you look at some biblical greats, like, let's just take Paul, for example.
All I can think about is biblical greats that were 800 years old. So they didn't have their midlife crisis till they were 400. And that doesn't seem fair.
I thought right. So, but think about Paul, who's like, okay, I want to preach to stadiums full of people. And I am sitting here in this prison writing letters to these people that bother the heck out of me.
Right.
And so you just don't have all the information of what God's going to do, because he could have very easily rolled his eyes and sucked his teeth and tossed his hands up and said, for what? What is going on? And you just don't have all the information. Oh, okay. What about Noah, who's like,
800 years old.
I really, hold on. This is a better point. What about Noah, who is like, I really hear God asking me to build an ark for all of creation. And I realized that probably sounds really wild to my neighbors. It is so clear and so certain that that's what I'm supposed to be doing that I'll just go ahead and take the quizzical looks.
But I don't think I'm a biblical great. I think what I would have done is like the thing that's something that I would do would be build a boat, and then we have the greatest drought of all time, like we did this past summer. And then I'm sitting here just with a boat, like, why isn't anybody using the boat?
Well, that sounds like a lack of faith.
Well, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think
so the thing that I like in what you said, not that I disliked anything, but the thing that I'm really latching onto is the part about Paul. Probably thought he would have been accomplishing more if he was in front of stadiums and not these letters that like literally he had no idea. He just thought they were going to go out. Were they even going to get there? And now you and I are reading them 2,000 years later. I had never thought about that. That's incredible. And that's helpful in like one of the things that's like really like in the professional side of things is I feel like I've just been spinning my wheels really since COVID.
Yeah.
Like with the show, with like everything that we're producing, where it's like there's a part of me that is like, okay, people are receiving these letters, these little things. Like the audience is still here, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Amazing.
Like the fact that the audience stuck with us through the last few years is really great. But it also hasn't grown at all. Mm-hmm. And we were growing. Like when this show started, we were literally nothing. We were getting like less than 100 downloads every episode for like a year. And then the next year it doubled. And the next year it doubled. And the next year it doubled. Where it was doubling or tripling every year to where it became like a thing. Like this is like something that we're doing now and something we're focused on, and it's great. But that growth completely stopped whenever COVID hit. Like, and it feels like my focus is often on it's not growing. I feel like there's a part of me that feels like my talents are being wasted. It's like I know that I'm good at podcasting and speaking, and I know that I'm good at music, and yet It's not going anywhere. Nobody's asking me to do it. The only places that I'm doing it are where I can publish it. Like nobody's telling me that no. And so it's
you have been out of town a lot speaking.
Not near as much.
Okay,
I'm sending the letters, and I this year I've done like 6 or 7 events where like before COVID I was doing 40.
Okay.
So
okay.
That's the tension.
I believe you. I believe you.
I'm still
I
grateful.
do feel like it's my job to say, is that true? So if that's true, that's true. But it's my job. Okay, go ahead.
And that's the tension. Is that like I feel every time I feel this real thing.
Yeah.
And I feel these frustrations and like a failure.
Okay.
And yet I constantly hear myself, well, you're not grateful enough for the things that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's not making these feelings go away.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in those feelings almost every day.
Yeah.
Where like, a big win comes through and like, I'll feel good for a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm just like, well, I don't know. It's still like the most frustrating one is YouTube because the podcast is doing fine. Like we have a dedicated, strong audience and we've been doing the show for 8 years, right? We started on YouTube 3 years ago and I thought we were going to be YouTube partners and have a YouTube audience within a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, the goal is to be a YouTube partner by the end of the year. And then we weren't close. And then I was like, okay, by the end of the next year.
Yeah.
I was like, I got more information. It was harder than I thought. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we're trucking. And we've been, so you need the numbers. You need 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost at 2,000 subscribers, but nobody's watching. Like we've been sitting at 2,900 watch hours for a year.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, that's awesome, right? Like if you would have told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
yeah,
that 1,000 people a week were listening to me, like that sounds like you're talking to a stadium, right?
Yeah.
Like that's legitimately like what that sounds like. And yet I'm still like, I don't know. Feels like I'm talking to 4. It's weird.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you love the work?
Sometimes.
Because I think it is possible that when you love the work, that there is something transferable in your joy, which is the whole reason you started this in the first place. There is something transferable from your joy to other people's joy. And it might be possible that you need a new baby. And I do not mean a physical baby, but you need a new love. You need a new, and I don't even mean a diversion from the podcast, but something about the podcast that is new and exciting. You know how to do this. You could do it with your eyes closed. It might be a new challenge. It might be bringing something in that maybe you've always really loved, but you never thought fit. Maybe it's a person. There's just something new because God is on the move and he is going to make you sensitive to the Holy Spirit when you are asking good questions. He's going to make you sensitive to these holy nudges that say, I just sense that there's more. And in this call and charge for abundant life and our, I don't know, that's our inheritance is this abundant life. It's right. It is right and good to be in the place where you're at, where you're saying, not why does God have me here, but what does God have for me here? And I think that it's not just possible, but likely that there's more. Mm-hmm. There's something new that you're supposed to be taking on.
It's interesting that you say that because it's been one of the things like in the back of my mind, you mentioned ease, right? This show is incredibly easy for me to do. It's clockwork, 8 years, especially with the co-host. Like it just makes it so easy for me. This show is easy. A lot of the stuff that I know would grow the podcast, would grow the YouTube channel, would grow even our financial situation is hard. Like sitting down, like running a nonprofit and asking for donors is hard and it's awkward. You get told no a lot. It's hard. So I avoid that. On YouTube, I know the thing that will work is not the thing that I want to do. The thing that works on YouTube is clickbaity stuff or like super, super Catholic, like apologetics kind of stuff, which I have the ability to do, but I don't want to do it. And so there's this frankly, that's not that hard for me. Like I can do that.
Mhm.
It's just more of I feel like I'm going against like my initial charter, right? Of like, let's
Yeah.
bring joy to this and not do this stuff when the whole idea with YouTube is you get people in the door and then you filter them into your other stuff. It's like think people in the door is doing a 5-minute apologetic video, which like I could do today. And I've known that for 2 years. I just haven't done it because I don't want to, and it's hard to create something new, which is what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
But like, there has been this little tug in the back of my head of like, you need to do something new, especially with like Sarah taking over a lot of the work that like I don't have to do. That frees up my time to do new things. But now it's like it's just kind of accepting the new reality of like, oh, I'm freed up to do other things. That means that I need to be doing other things. Because before I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Or energy. Now I have time, maybe not the energy, but I have time to be doing these other things that it's like, the whole idea of bringing up Paul again, I know the right things to do and I'm not doing them.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like I need somebody to be like, hey, you need to go raise money and make videos that people want to watch. And I'm like, I know, I just don't want to.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a fresh take. Maybe it's a creative twist to apologetics. Mm-hmm. I mean, if apologetics is what people want, maybe it's your fresh approach to that. I don't feel like you're making music as much as you used to. I think that probably is something that brings you a lot of joy. I don't know the answers, but I would love brainstorming it with you. But one thing that I think is important, I remember it was a conference that I really wanted to do well. If there was, a hierarchy of speakers, I was at the very bottom, which I loved. Like I like that.
It's a fun place to be
position
because if I'm on the bottom of it,
mm-hmm.
I'm never going to finish at the bottom. I won't finish at the top, but it is fun beating 2 people.
Okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say, but given more time, it's what I should have expected you to say. The reason I love it is because pressure's kind of off and I can really just be authentic and then maybe delightfully surprise someone. But the headliner, if you will, the keynote, that's what they're called, I was pacing before my turn. And she's, clopping down the hall and she was not being unkind. I can't stress that enough. She was not being unkind. She said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "A little bit." And she goes, "Oh." And it sounds like she was being patronizing. And I'm just telling you that like the energy was not a patronizing. She genuinely thought that was sweet. Right. And then, and I thought of it from her perspective, because of course that implies that she doesn't get nervous. And I had this kind of interior thought, which was, I hope that's not ever me. I don't ever want to not be just have a little bit of nervous energy before like taking a stage. And if I ever don't, I think I need to do something else. I think I need to move on. I think I need to change things up a little bit. And it reminds me of, I think it's Mother Angelica has a quote that, following the Holy Spirit, and I might be butchering this, sorry. Following the Holy Spirit is 1 foot on the floor, 1 hand in the air, and a queasy feeling in your stomach.
Sounds like you're playing Twister.
She is really surprisingly good at Twister, that Mother Angelica. She's spry.
I don't know why you know this.
So I don't know. I just think that maybe there's something new for you. And I don't mean instead of, I just mean in addition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll figure out what it is. So that's a lot about me. What's been going on with you?
Yeah. I feel, I know other people feel this way. I don't think you're one of them. Social media is so collective. I mean, obviously it's social, but we're in these communities, we're in these pockets. And if I know that a friend is struggling or suffering in their personal life, I will have a hard time posting or celebrating something because I know that someone who is going to see this is not in that same space.
That's strange behavior.
I don't think it is. I don't think I'm alone.
It has.
I think other people are sensitive to how other people are receiving their content.
You want to know how different I am than you?
Yes, I do, Taylor.
I got a text message yesterday from somebody saying, "I don't want to be a part of this content anymore." You know what I did? Posted a video of them. You're not changing my content your life. Sorry.
Okay, well.
You know why? It would make things hard for me.
You're just a mess. And yet we're all here.
I put hours
so
of work into this stuff. I'm not going to stop.
So
Oh, you're having a bad day. I'm not going to post on Instagram.
Can we talk about me?
Oh, we are. I'm making fun of you. Remember that story earlier that you said that the speaker wasn't making fun of you? I clearly am, and if I was in that position, I would have been.
Well,
you're nervous. Oh, you're a professional speaker, and you're nervous. Oh.
So this is why you need me, Taylor. You need me. Okay, you're going to give me thicker skin, and I'm going to make you a human. Okay, but
good luck.
If I know that there's someone in my circle that's going to receive something a certain way, it's hard for me. When there are global pandemics and people dying and we fill in all of the blanks, currently a horrible war, it is really hard for me to talk about my kid's football game. It feels like this really inappropriate change of subject. And I do recognize that I maybe have like more blurred lines than you or something. I don't even know what that.
I know you want it. You know I want it. Blurred lines. No,
oh,
nothing?
yes. Sorry, I was initially getting who's the
We're just doing more karaoke for you guys.
No, hold on. The thing that I'm wasting time, but it's the big animal that shakes his butt in the
me. I just
Afro
did that.
circus.
I don't know.
Madagascar.
Oh.
There's like two hippos that are in love, and you just reminded me of the male.
Oh, that's awesome.
Male hippo.
You sound like every comment I get on the internet.
Okay,
Remind me of a hippo. I got called fat by a kid at the football game on Saturday that we were.
I heard.
Your son was sitting next to me.
I'm like, I think that Taylor would have texted me this
so
immediately.
Funny. No, I felt like it was okay because your husband and son were there. It was good. No, little kid at the thing. He was like, I forget how it happened. He was like, we were talking about football, and I was like, "Oh, I used to play." And he's like, "Oh, have you played in your?" I was like, "No, I used to be fast, but not anymore." And he's like, "You know that you could be skinnier if you run." I was like, "Good night."
Okay, was this a kid our son's age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super annoying.
Yeah, should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to you.
So, all that to say, my work is largely posting things that I think and that I feel and that are going on in my life. And
you're going to wait till there's no war in the Middle East. You're never going to post again.
I just haven't been able to do. I know you're right. I know that you're right, but it's so yeah. So
it's very funny that the things I'm struggling with, you're very good at. The things that you're struggling with,
it's true. It's true.
I was looking forward to this conversation because of this.
Yeah, but then you throw. So I just have felt a little paralyzed lately, and I'm just behind in my work in all areas. I'm behind in my personal life. It's kids are sick. I don't know. It's no good reasons. It's just reasons.
I brought a lot of my problems in my show notes, and I brought one thing that I thought would help you.
Okay.
I don't know if it will, but I thought it would. So I heard this quote this week.
If you're trying to be helpful, Taylor, I'm going to honor it no matter what.
I wasn't
just
till
so you
now,
know.
Just to be clear. Just to be very clear, I knew I wasn't being helpful.
This is like an A for effort type
I heard
situation.
This thing, and it was a reminder for me because I feel like it's something that I'm typically pretty good at, but I think I got out of whack this week.
Okay.
And I think a lot of what you just said, I think there might be something.
Okay.
So I was reminded that your circle of influence is smaller than your circle of concern. So hold on. Your circle of influence is smaller than your circle of concern. So sure, we're all concerned about elections. We're all concerned about the Middle East. We're all concerned about war. We're all concerned about, riots. Sure. But I have no influence over that stuff. Right?
The most annoying thing is when someone speaks into it that please stop talking.
Right. Which is why I've said nothing about it. Because I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
Right.
I get all of my news from Jeremy McClellan. He's the funniest pundit on all of this stuff.
Yes.
But it was a reminder to me because it was encouraging of because my go-to is to avoid things like that. Big picture topics that are controversial and that people are on 50-50 on both sides. 'Cause it's just like the whole point of this show is to be an escape, right? Escape from your week, have some laughs, grow in your faith a little bit. Great. Like that's the whole point. So if we came in and talked about stuff like we did today, it's all depressing and sad.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be what we're doing, right? But we can't completely avoid, because that's not healthy, but we can't completely just give in to all this other stuff too, right? So I was thinking about this whole dichotomy of like, we have these problems. I can either attack them or I can avoid them.
Right.
And I think some of that discernment is what's in my circle of influence.
Right.
I can influence.
Yes, that's good.
I can influence my community. I can influence Silas on Saturday morning.
Right.
I can't influence other stuff, even in your family's life that was going on. Right. Like, and our community, like there's just stuff I can't. So I just have to kind of let it go.
Yeah. It's good.
And try not to focus on it and focus on the things that I can, because like even going back to what, the advice that you had for me is like, when I focus on things that are outside of my influence, then it takes away from the time and energy that I could be doing that's within my influence. Yeah. Right. And so anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. I was thinking, I'm relearning. So it's like we learn and then we sometimes have to relearn or remember. Like scripture's always telling us to remember. God can't do that for us. But remember, way less creepy. God is.
That was 100% God. Also known as the Lion King.
To you.
He's 100% God in that movie.
The
father, there's a son. Yeah, whatever.
No, it's true. That's good content. We need to do that sometimes. It's a good segment. Okay, but knowing the things, because I've done this before. I've like literally made a physical list of these are the things that I can change. These are the things that I cannot change.
Is that when you were in Alcoholics Anonymous?
That's probably it's in my yoga class where we're like, it's in my stretching class where we're like laying at the end.
My favorite joke.
What are my breathing and stretching? So yeah, like knowing I can change how I smell. I can affect that my bed is made in the morning. I can get fresh air and drink water. These are the things that I have control over. Ren does what she wants. Hummus, I just learned what that was like a month ago. Like there are these things that I can't do anything about. And there's a lot of health.
Chickpeas?
And what?
Chickpeas.
Chickpeas.
Smashed up chickpeas.
Hummus.
Yeah.
Hummus. Okay.
You said it.
So if I, yes. Yeah. So there are, there's a middle ground. You have these things on the edges and there's this middle ground. There's mourning and moping. There's attacking and avoiding. There's, I don't know. It's about balance, intention, also a really good stretching and breathing exercise.
So what we're going to do is today, our plan is to do both of these things. We attempted in this segment to attack our problems head on, and I feel better.
Good.
And then whenever we're going to take a break, and we have a great guest today, Cordial Catholic. We're going to talk about being nice to Protestants. I love that. You're a convert yourself. You'll love it. But then
Indeed.
whenever we come back, we're going to avoid things. And we're going to do what the show is meant to do. And we're going to do something pointless and silly and try to laugh and have a good time.
Fantastic.
All right. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We find ourselves here in this season of giving. And if you are looking for somewhere to donate this giving season, we would really appreciate it if you kept us in mind. Forte Catholic is a Catholic 501c3 nonprofit. So we're a charity. And we literally live off the charity and the giving of people just like you. So if you like the show, if you like other great Catholic podcasts, being able to sound and look as best as they can, because that's the work that we do behind the scenes. If you like good speakers and good music for events, that is what we do here. If you want to support our ministry, you can do so at fortecatholic.com/donate, fortecatholic.com/donate. Easy to set up. You can give a one-time donation, which will help us with some year-end things, or you can become a staple in what we are doing here by becoming a monthly donor. $5 a month, $20 a month. We just got a new $20 a month donor this week. We've got people giving $50, $100, $250, and even a $500 donor. So, but it all helps. It all goes towards all the work that we're doing here. So again, that's fortecatholic.com/donate. We appreciate you, all of our new donors, and all the donors who have been donating to us for many, many years. We appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and before I even say your name, it is a common thing over here that I give people fake middle names. And for years, we've been following each other for years on social media, and I knew that your name was Keith A. Little, right? Okay. Yes. And I never knew what the A stood for. And my plan was to come on here and guess it. But then I got an email from you because, and it says K. Albert Little. So I want you to know that for years, you've kept me in the dark. And with one email, you just completely blew up the bit right from the beginning. Yeah, so welcome to the show.
I ruined it for you. I'm sorry.
You really did. You really did.
I'm curious what your guesses would have been though now, but I guess it's too late.
Alexander Hamilton, because you look like Lin-Manuel Miranda. That was my first guess. I think you look exactly like, the guy who wrote Hamilton. Yeah. You don't think you look like him at all. But
I've been told that though by many people who host podcasts have mentioned that to me.
You sound like an ex-president that we won't talk about. Many people have told me that. It's like, no, it was one guy on the internet.
It was you earlier today.
Yeah, exactly. You are the Cordial Catholic, which, we've been talking here on our show the last few weeks about how non-cordial Catholics are driving me literally insane. So what made you pick Cordial in the first place?
Okay, it's an aspirational title. Because I am about like the most curmudgeon-y, prideful, spiteful, arrogant. What else?
Oh, you're not curmudgeon-y.
So on a scale, I'm Canadian. Okay, so by default, I'm just cordial. Like there's a baseline of cordiality, just being Canadian. But I am like the worst Canadian. So it's purely an aspirational title, Taylor. I asked my wife. I'm nowhere near cordial, but I thought I'll aim high. Like the saying is, you aim high. I don't know, you aim low and then you exceed expectations, I think is my motto. This is probably backwards to actually.
Aim low is how to get out of a fight with a man larger than
you. Or how to surprise yourself and others, right? You aim low and you accomplish higher and you look really good. You've done a really awesome job. In this case, this is an aspirational title. I'm trying to set a bar for myself to be the Cordial Catholic, and then I have to rise to that occasion and put behind myself all my natural tendencies. So I see. It really has been, and I guess it kind of came about because the idea, a lot of the work that I've been doing since I became Catholic was to cordially explain the Catholic faith to non-Catholic Christians. So it's instead of, just ramming it in their throats or being offensive or just, argumentative, I've tried to approach sharing the Catholic faith as a convert in a way that is kind, patient, cordial, right? So I don't always hit that mark, I don't think, but it's aspirational in that sense. Sharing the Catholic faith cordially. I think I'm trying.
I think you're selling yourself a little too short because I've been following you for years. I've known you've got the podcast, the YouTube channel, and when a Catholic podcast pops up, I run in enough Catholic podcasting circles that I tend to hear about them, and I hear about some that are like, oh, just another apologetics podcast. It's either boring or bashing Protestants or both. But then I didn't realize it was so aspirational for you. I think I just connected it with the Canadian thing. You're all very cordial. Even if you hated me, you'd still be right now, here right now with me saying very nice things about me, that sort of thing. That's but I didn't realize it was aspirational because you've been doing it so well. You do talk to non-Catholics in a very cordial way. But I didn't realize. So I just had a thought while you were talking about how, you said, it's an aspirational title, right? And I haven't thought about this story in many, many years. But one of the worst things / best things I ever did for my spiritual life was play Jesus in our high school, passion play or whatever, right? Yeah. I didn't used to be this fat. I had hair and a six pack, so I looked more like Jesus does, and all those crucifixes that you have in the house, God. Right? But I loved doing it, and it was actually like a really like spiritually uplifting thing for me to do. But the thing that was bad about it is that once I played Jesus in the play, I couldn't do non-Jesus-y things at school because everybody saw me be Jesus. So like I'd be cussing at somebody. They'd be like, "Oh no, Jesus wouldn't do that." I'd be cutting in line. Like there was a thing, like all the football players got to go cut in line in cafeteria. There'd be like 100 people in line. All the football players could go to the front of whichever line they wanted. And then I would do that. I've been doing it for years. They were like, no, Jesus wouldn't cut in line. So I was required to act like Jesus as a Christian. And it was really frustrating. So it was an aspirational thing for me. I was not Jesus, but I was required to act like him. So I didn't realize that you and I had that in common.
That's incredible. I love that. That's such an interesting thing. And it reminds me of those "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets that were popular when I was in high school.
Same time, right? Actually.
You couldn't wear those, or you could wear those and be a complete nincompoop, right? You had to, it would convict you that you had to actually rise to that kind of occasion. And I was thinking too the other day, actually, in mass, our daughter was pointing at the crucifix, and she calls it baby Jesus, but it's really funny because it's not a baby Jesus on the crucifix, but that she associates Jesus on the crucifix at this point in her life, and she's 2 and a bit with baby Jesus, and she said something about why is he so small? And I thought in that second, you know what would be strange? Fat Jesus. Like, wouldn't that be a weird? It doesn't seem fitting to think about like our Lord, because if he was perfect, is there also a perfect weight for Jesus, like physically? Like
I think a perfect baby is chubby. So I think you're right. I think Jesus was chubby, at least at some point in his life. I think you're correct.
But he had to have lost that baby weight, right? You wouldn't be fitting. It wouldn't be fitting for a fat Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
To be going around, right? Like, no offense, Taylor, to you. I know you played him. Right. And you're saying you had to, you look different. You wouldn't have. I'm in a hole now.
You sure have. You've dug yourself quite a hole there, trying to dig from Canada all the way to the U.S. So,
oh gosh!
All right, let's get back on topic. So, you've got this podcast, Cordial Catholic, where you're talking a lot about you're doing topics that like a lot of non-Catholics would disagree with Catholicism, or just want to open their mind a little bit more about Catholicism. You're just crushing it. You've got thousands and thousands of views on the channel. You made a joke when I came on your show that you get 10 views. I'm like, no, I get 10 views. You get 10,000 views. That's the difference between the two channels. But what's the goal there? What are you trying to do? Because you yourself were a convert, so I would imagine that's where your heart for this came from.
Yeah. Well, so how I backed into this was that I realized actually it was a Protestant pastor I was working for who was going to seminary himself. He was raised Catholic in Montreal, very Catholic part of Canada. Italian, French, Canadian guy, was raised Catholic, ended up leaving the Catholic faith and becoming a non-denominational pastor, was going back to seminary to do his master's degree, and was reading through patristics, early church fathers, and wrestling with church history. And I was his intern at this student church that he worked at in the university campus up here in Canada. And so he would come back from class and bounce ideas off of me the next morning in his office. And he was the one who kind of got me thinking about church history and the canon of the Bible and these different ideas of authority and these kinds of things. And as I began to read some of the sources that he had mentioned and talked about and read more for myself, kind of beyond what he was suggesting, I realized that it was a lot of these misconceptions that I held about things like the Catholic Church and church history and the Reformation and things that Catholics believed and did and practiced. And the more that I read those things, the more I realized that actually Catholics were different than I thought they were. And I kind of crept closer and closer to being like, actually, these guys have a lot of things figured out. And then eventually became Catholic. And really, I kind of began this thing to do that, to kind of dispel those misconceptions that oftentimes aren't actually like willfully like acquired misconceptions. They're just like misinformation or misconceptions that you have or heard or held for some reason. You don't even realize you had them or were holding them. And when you learn the truth about what the Catholics actually believe, it's like, wow, this is actually different and compelling. Like, this isn't going to push me away from Christ. This actually draws me closer to Christ and the church he founded. And it's this kind of brilliant like discovery So my goal has been to kind of try and do that. So to talk to a lot of people who are on that journey, to have them on my show to kind of talk about their experience, because I learned too from watching, say, Marcus Grodi and now his son, my friend, John Mark Grodi. His son,
hey,
my friend, John Mark Grodi. They have the same last name, two buddies, and say, just you take the show over. We got the same last name, couple of buds. That show, The Journey Home on EWTN, going for almost 30 years now, I think. It's amazing. And I realized watching that as a non-Catholic Christian looking into the Catholic Church, how powerful those stories were, because you hear yourself and see yourself in those stories and questions that you are asking. You hear someone else asking those too, and then answering them. And so I try and do a bit of that kind of stuff. And I've had some amazing guests on the show that blow me away with their journeys, right? Guys who are pastors for like 20 years who hear the voice of God saying, hey, go to this church here. And it's a Catholic church. And they just drop all they're doing and go into that church and have like an epiphany and discover all these things and end up quitting their job and becoming Catholic. And so I have these wild stories like that. And then just digging into simple Catholic ideas, things that as Catholics, we hold and understand, and it makes a lot of sense. But from the outside, I think it was Marcus Grodi I had in the show years ago who said something like, the most devout Catholic kneeling to a statue, lighting a candle, praying the rosary. That's a Catholic doing the Catholic life, full force. They love God. They love their faith. That looks like the most pagan kind of like idol worshiper ever to a non-Catholic Christian. So just kind of setting those records straight, like, hey, you know what? That Catholic's doing all these things that are super pious and they're like super into their faith. And here's why. And it's kind of explaining those things to an audience that doesn't get it, right? Because they haven't heard it before in a language that they understand. I think it's kind of what I've been trying to do. Yeah,
there's an interesting comparison or parallel there that I don't think I've ever really thought about before. That a lot of times when people are converting, and especially a lot of people that run in your circles, that there are a lot of times for converts and in some intellectual hangups. Like, I just don't agree with what the church teaches or believes on, we know the big ones: papal infallibility, central church, the sacraments, Mary. Like, we all know kind of the big things, right? But so it's very interesting that you pointed out that a lot of Protestants are coming with like, I need answers and I need these things to be these problems that I have to be solved, and yet most Catholics aren't equipped to answer those questions. But they are incredibly devout and are holy and are living out their Catholic life. They're sitting there praying, kneeling in the church, lighting a candle, and they're connecting with their God and Father. And yet, if somebody asks them, can you explain when the Pope is infallible and when he isn't? They'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't even know what those words mean. So it is an interesting thing that, like, a lot of times, Catholics don't have, a lot of Catholics don't have this intellectual backing, but almost every convert does, because they had to go through those intellectual things to come over there. So that's just an interesting observation from that I've never really even thought about before. What do you think?
Yeah, no, and I think you always hear that converts make the best Catholics, also the most annoying Catholics, because they know they know it all, right? But it isn't interesting, and I have friends that have said this to me, that they can't appreciate or understand what a convert's gone through, because they've always had this, right? And so it's this weird kind of way of getting your head around, okay, so this person that I know has come to the same conclusions as me, but wrestled with that and left things behind and had broken friendships and employment and career and family members sometimes who don't get it, and relationships and all these things that kind of had to fracture to get to this point. It's kind of crazy when other people who are in that same point as you, the exact same kind of baptized Catholic now with full communion with the church, didn't do all those things to get there. It's very, very different. And it's interesting because, like you say, there are, of course, cradle Catholics who just kind of have lived their faith, haven't really kind of dove deep into it to know a lot about how to understand or what it all means or how to defend it. But there are some Catholics who are super, super devout and know it really well and practice it really well, who haven't thought of the things that a non-Catholic Christian have thought about to be able to answer those things? Like, Mary is Mary, and it makes sense because it does make sense. But I had to wrestle with that to get to the point where it makes sense. And so it's an interesting place to be, where somebody holds these things and knows their faith well, but just haven't considered how somebody else might not understand that and approach that differently to get there. It's kind of it's interesting. It goes both ways, because I'm jealous of people like yourself who have had all these years in the church to love it and be immersed in it and to enjoy it and to experience it. Because we as a family are still struggling sometimes to establish traditions and routines for our family and we've been at this for a while now, but we haven't grown into those things. We've kind of are having to make those things, adopt those things from the church as we go along versus inheriting that. So it goes both ways, but it's an interesting dynamic for sure. Those two sides, right, of that equation there.
Yeah. So I was scrolling through your YouTube channel as I was going through, and I saw some videos on kind of the big name things that we saw earlier of the understanding of Scripture and papal infallibility, and why not sola scriptura. Most people that have been around the church know that those are big topics for people coming into Catholicism.
Yeah, but
we're recording this at an interesting time because we just celebrated All Saints Day, All Souls Day, right? So I want to know some of the weirder questions, like the not mainstream Protestant questions for Catholics that you've dealt with. And I'll give an example. One that I've seen a lot happening this week is that because Catholics are people are trying to get over and over again, like, hey, we need to be a little bit more cordial. We need to be a little bit more welcoming and understanding of new Catholics or Protestants or Protestants that want to become Catholic, or even just Protestants in general, right? We need to be a little bit kinder and loving. What a novel idea. But one thing that I saw was in regards to hey guys, come to our church. Like, we Catholics, we're not super weird. And then the next breath, we're like, I'm going to see St. Albert's thumb at my parish next week. Come on over. So there are some weird things.
Yeah.
So what are some of the strangest holdups that you've heard from people, or maybe even that you had yourself before you converted?
Well, I don't know. I'm a bit weird, Taylor, and I kind of entered in a side door, maybe because for me, the weird things like exorcism or relics or these kind of strange things that Catholics do were appealing to me because of their apologetic power. Like, if you're telling me that I can go to a church and see St. Albert's thumb, okay, that sounds pretty crazy. But you tell me that thumb has healed people who've touched it, right? And has healed them in ways that medical science cannot explain, or done things that really defy science, right? Well, then that becomes this, okay, well, there's something to that then, right? And maybe it's Satan. So you look deeper into, well, no, Satan can't be healing through a saint's thumb. That would, because people are becoming Catholic and Christian from these miracles. That
would be a really weird tactic on his part.
Let's make more Catholics. And the same for exorcism. That for me was like, okay, well, so if an exorcist can evoke Mary's name or the prayers of the saints, or can bring a holy object or holy water or a relic to an exorcism, and the demon reacts to that, well, how do you explain that? So those weird things for me were very interesting as an apologetic tool. And I think more and more those kind of weird things, because we're a bit obsessed with the paranormal these days. Like, there's a lot of ghost hunting TV, and like a lot of these kind of, UAPs are in the news, these different kind of weird paranormal things. And I think our culture is a bit more obsessed with that than usual. So I think this is the time for these kind of these weird things kind of get trotted out and go, well, okay, this is a weird thing we do, but also you can't explain why this thing does this. Why saints can be evoked and they have some kind of power over demons. Like, Protestants believe in demons. What do you think, Protestants, right? And with relics, I always say that relics are the weird aunt of the Catholic Church, right? That weird aunt that at Thanksgiving, you kind of keep her in the corner of the room. Like, you don't want to make, your new girlfriend shouldn't meet the new aunt until you're at least dating for a year or so, right? Because she'll say really weird things and do really weird stuff. But you know what? If she's right, if the things she's saying actually make a lot of sense, and if relics are actually have some kind of power to do stuff, right? And hey, actually, in the Bible, we see St. Paul's handkerchiefs, the St. Peter's shadow, these things that actually seem to do something. And you trace relics back to the very early Christians who used to lower down a handkerchief into the tomb of St. Peter and St. Paul to try and touch the bones of these saints to a handkerchief because they believed it had these healing properties. Like that's very, very early Christianity. Well, hey, I think there's something in there, guys, to maybe look a bit deeper. So I love those really weird things because they're actually really compelling as actual reasons why the Catholic Church is uniquely doing something, right? I think.
I've never heard that handkerchief story, and
true.
I would pay so much. It's one of those moments I just pay so much money to like walk up and be like, "What are y'all doing? What's going on here? What
do you see? There's a fishing line here.
Yeah, exactly.
Got bones down there. Yeah,
you catching anything today, buddy?
Only holiness.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. This is great. I've enjoyed talking to you, not just today, but also you and I had a longer conversation where we ranted and raved about RCIA and talked about how we can maybe fix it and be a little bit more cordial to people coming into the church. You can find all of that, the Cordial Catholic, wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be linked down in the show notes as well. So Keith, thanks for spending time with me, not just today, but when we also did the interview for your show. This has been fun. I like you a lot. I'm glad we finally met face to face.
I appreciate after that comments about Fat Jesus, you still are my friend. So thanks, Taylor.
I'm trying to be like Jesus in every way, and my Jesus is a little chubby. So.
Oh my gosh. Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me. I love being here. This is great.
All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I really enjoyed talking with Keith here on our show, and I think as we mentioned in the interview, I went and did an hour conversation with him over on his YouTube channel and podcast, The Cordial Catholic. So if you liked that conversation and you want more of that after you finish the show, you can go over to the Cordial Catholic YouTube page or his podcast and listen to a conversation that we had about RCIA, how we can be more welcoming and informative and helpful for people that want to come into the church. We had a great conversation, and it was one of those things that I have strong feelings about, and I don't often get a chance to talk about it here on the show. So if you enjoyed me and Keith's conversation here, you will enjoy our conversation over on the Cordial Catholic. Go listen to it. The link to the YouTube will be down in the description of this show. While you're over there, hit subscribe on the Forte Catholic channel. Thank you. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and that is Allison Sullivan.
It is.
And we're going to play one of my favorite games that we have not played in a very long time.
I don't think I've ever played
on this show. I don't think you have either. I was trying to remember. It's been so, you're not on trial. Sam Beckman-Fried over here. I don't recall.
I have no memory of that.
So what this game is called? It's called Life Verse. And a lot of times, like you grew up, we had our Protestant convert as a guest. You are a convert from Catholicism, and I had my conversion of heart within a non-denominational church, where I think I probably learned about life verses. Like you pick a verse and it's like, this is what my life is built on, right? Like if I had one for real, it would be John 10:10. You know what John 10:10 says?
Yes, it is.
This would be the most Protestant thing you've ever done.
Hold on. You know me because it's something about recognizing God because you know him.
Nope.
What is it?
I have come that they might have life and life in the fullness, or
abundant. Yeah. Interesting that it came up. Yes, today. Yeah.
So, what we are going to do is that God has given me this gift of being able to pick out a life verse for other people. So what I do is I just completely randomly open this Bible.
Yeah.
And I pick a life verse for whoever needs to. I've been doing this for years in youth ministry, and it's a very fun little game, but it's not a game to me. It's real.
Yeah.
I have this gift, and we're going to see if you have.
You don't care at all what my life verse is?
No, it's right here. I'm going to give it to you. Because clearly, it's from the book of Micah.
Micah.
You remember that book. You read it a bunch, haven't you?
Yeah.
Micah chapter 2, verse 4 says, "In that day they shall take up a taunt song against you, and wail with bitter lamentation, and say, we are utterly ruined. He changes the portion of my people, how he removes it from me. Among our captors, he divides our fields." And why this is your life verse is because it's what you actually did to me in real life. I used to have more followers than you. And then the pandemic and TikTok happened, and God took all of my sphere of influence, gave it to you, and multiplied it 10, 50, if not 1,000,000-fold. I think it's a perfect verse for you.
But he divided my field. I'm going to give it right back, apparently.
That'd be great. So,
All right. Come on.
But one
I'm going straight to Leviticus.
funny little irony about this is in preparation for this segment, I was like, hey, do you have a Bible on your phone? And you said no. And I said, what a bad Catholic. And then I walked over through my house to immediately find a Bible to hand to you. Took me 8 minutes. Couldn't find it.
The reason I know is because I have to go to the bathroom. Okay, here we go. This is from Wisdom of Solomon. Okay, it's chapter 17. And it says,
Are you nervous?
No. What? For even if nothing disturbing frightened them, yet, scared by the passing of beasts and the hissing of serpents, they perished in trembling fear. So sorry. Refusing to look even at the air, though it nowhere could be avoided.
I think it's about my midlife crisis.
I think that this is also about your midlife crisis because it says that trembling and fear and the hissing of serpents, evil is all around us, Taylor. It's unavoidable. Okay. And so we just need to cling tightly to the Lord and get to that holy hour, and God's doing a new thing. So
I did. I was so happy that, the last time you were on, you asked if, you said you were going to ask on this episode if I went to my holy hour. And sure enough, I went to your house the other day and you asked me if I did my holy hour. And I said, yes, I did. Thanks for checking in. Also, you would have known this information if you listened to the podcast.
I'm behind in all things. We've already talked about this enough.
All right, I'm going to do one more for you from the New Testament. A lot of times you want to pick one from the Old and the New. Like you can pick a baseball team that's like from the National League and from the American League to root for.
Obviously.
That's how I feel about the Testaments. Okay, so this is from...
It's like college football and pro.
Ephesians... wait, that's very funny. The Old Testament is the... college. They were warming up for the pros, which is Jesus. That's very, very good. Okay, we're going to read from, this is from your best friend.
Oh.
Paul. In his letter.
It is, actually.
Not his big speech, in his letter to the Ephesians. And this is chapter 4. We're going to go chapter 4, verse 4. Ephesians 4. There is one body and one spirit, just as you were called to the one hope that belongs to your call. So we think about the combination of body and spirit, which is what you focus a lot on in your stretching class, uniting the body
lots of harmony
and the spirit.
Yeah,
and then the second part is just as you were called in the one hope that belongs to your call. This is something that you were encouraging me to do earlier. It's like, what are the things that can bring me hope in my dire situation, and also what are the things that only I can do, right? And also, you and I did some ministry together in a thing called One Hope, and I think that's hilarious that I got.
That was right where my mind went. Yeah. Okay. Do I do another one for you, or can I do Rapunzel?
You do Rapunzel. Yeah.
Okay, this is for Rapunzel.
Oh, it would be great if you got the one about balding or something to do with hair. That'd be hilarious.
Okay. I don't know that Luke is going to be fruitful. No offense, Luke. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians. Okay, and it says, for we do not want you to be ignorant, brethren. She was so ignorant in that tower, poor thing, of the affliction we experienced in Asia. Maybe. Who knows? For we were so utterly and unbearably crushed that we despaired of life itself. Why? We felt that we had received the sentence of death, but that was to make us rely not on our own selves, but on God who raises the dead. This is very apropos because you see, Rapunzel, there was nothing around her. She was in complete solitary confinement, hopeless. And she needed to rely on
a man,
the Lord, a decent man, and one really good horse. And then life in abundance.
I think you have a partial gift for this.
Not full?
Not full, because I think that was from Mulan.
No, you need to get caught up on your Disney princesses, Taylor.
All right. Since we talked about your son, this is for your son.
Aww.
Old Cy. We're going to go to 2 Chronicles, not Corinthians, to the Chronicles. And we're going to go with chapter 21. I'm slowly glancing at page headers and none of this looks good. Exactly. Chapter 21, verse 3. Their father gave them great gifts of silver, gold, and valuable possessions, together with fortified cities in Judah. But he gave the kingdom to Jehoram because he was the firstborn. This is literally about your firstborn. This is incredible. When Jehoram had ascended the throne of his father and was established, he slew all his brothers with the sword and also some of the princes of Israel. So I think some of this is about how he is the firstborn, right?
Indeed.
And like he just like this man was given a lot. Like, your husband's not a king, but he's a doctor. That's pretty close these days. Yeah. So there's a lot of inheritance coming to this boy's direction. Yeah. And I think this is one of those stories like there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Okay.
So we know that Silas is in public school. So we have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Because if we keep him to the church, this will not be his outcome. Mm-hmm. But if he slips into the secular world, he might be murdering his brothers pretty soon.
Might be slaying everyone closest to him. This is one of those
cautionary tales. It's a cautionary tale for Silas. He needs to say his prayers. Maybe he can go do a holy hour.
Okay.
I think if he sticks close to Jesus, I crack up so much. There's I don't know if you'll like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. We'll see what happens. It cracks me up so much. And I've mentioned this to him, that he's a teenager who plays sports. Like I was a teenager who plays sports, a couple decades ago. So I remember what locker rooms are like, right?
Sure.
So he'll share a clip of himself. And I love watching the clips. He's very good. He's a quarterback. He's throwing these great passes. My favorite is when he throws a bad pass and then the receiver makes a very good catch and he posts it anyway because he's like, look what I did. Those are my favorite. Yeah. But he posts it with these songs that have some adult language in them.
Indeed.
And then his next Instagram story will be about some Bible verse. And then the next story is another cussing rap song. I love him. Yeah. He's the best. Yeah. He's just the best.
He is true to who he is.
I was like,
conflicted.
Yeah, I see this.
You just stay close, Taylor. Okay, you just stay close because he's quit listening to me. Yes and no, but you know what he doesn't post are excellent passes that hit people right in the hands and between the numbers that they drop. So there's that. So he'll throw a bad pass that they catch and post it, but will not post a good catch that they drop.
That's what dads of NFL receivers do.
Yeah.
Look at my boy. There's nothing wrong with my boy.
So this is adorable. So Ren is sitting next to me on the bleachers and they say, pass from Silas Sullivan, incomplete. She whips around and looks up at the box and says, why doesn't it say pass from Silas Sullivan, not caught?
Yeah.
He won't slay her.
She's not a brother. All right, let's do one more. I'm going to give you one more chance and then we'll close this out.
One more chance. Okay, this is, what? What kind of Bible is this, Taylor? What? Okay.
It's a Bible that has Haggai in it. You're not a big Haggai fan?
Hold on.
Who's this for?
God,
you can't pick from the map.
This is from Mulan.
This is for Mulan?
Mulan, yeah. It's from Jeremiah. Okay. And it says, so Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces. And
wait, did you say Korea?
It's Kareah, but interesting.
Close enough.
I mean, so Johanan, Mulan, it sounds kind of like Mulan, and the son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces, and all the people did not obey the voice of the Lord clearly.
Johanan is a girl disguised.
Mulan should have not had these obstacles to do what the Lord had called her to do. I don't even remember what that says anymore, but there's a lot of conviction in there that she should have had equal opportunity to go do what she was born to do.
I love that in probably one of the first Disney movies that was like female forward, like positive female, she got the man at the end, but she didn't need the man or whatever.
Right.
I love that she won with fireworks. like she trained for the military stuff and didn't use it. She won with a fireworks display.
Interesting.
Very funny.
Yeah.
I also think it's great that
it's a great point, Diane.
My last one. Okay. My last one was about Silas, and it was about firstborns.
Yeah.
And your last one was about Mulan, and it was about the military.
Crazy.
I think we're getting somewhere.
That is crazy.
All right.
Not planned.
No,
Zero.
Clearly.
Well,
None of the show was planned. We would have not. Remember the first 8 minutes of this show when we didn't do anything that we thought was
surprise, Johnny.
It's just, every one of your outbursts, I don't understand. It's all
TikTok. Our algorithms are different.
Whatever. All right. Well, I'm Taylor Schroll. That is Allison Sullivan. I have the gift. She has a partial gift. I'll be back in a week. She'll be back in a month. See ya. Thank y'all for watching and listening today. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. It was a wide-ranging one. It was wide-ranging just with Allison and I, and then we had a guest into the mix, and we had some fun. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe wherever you're listening, especially over on our YouTube channel. Things are going well over there. We're about to hit some milestones. We could use your help with some watch time over there. Go and watch some of our videos if you actually want to watch them, or just hit play on a playlist and walk away from your computer for a few hours. It all helps. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you next week. Love you.